You know, usually when a massive medical emergency hits, it announces itself.
Right, yeah.
Sirens blaring, paramedics rushing through hospital doors, monitors beeping frantically.
It's loud.
Exactly. The parameters of the crisis are just obvious to everyone in the room. The danger is visible, and the required response is universally understood.
Because the entire environment is, engineered to signal urgency. Like everyone from the doctors to the people sitting in the waiting room knows something critical is happening.
Yeah.
But that dynamic shifts entirely when the medical emergency is just completely silent.
I mean, when the crisis isn't an open wound or like a failing organ, but a slowly decaying piece of blue plastic.
Yeah, which sounds crazy, but it's true.
It is. So welcome to The Deep Dive. I'm your host.
And I'm your resident expert for today.
And today our mission is to unpack this incredibly rare sequence of events from November 2016. It's detailed in an article titled The Cup for Ben's Story.
A truly amazing story.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I want to speak directly to you, the person listening to this right now. Think about a time you urgently needed to replace a beloved everyday item.
Like a perfectly worn-in pair of running shoes.
Right. Or maybe a coffee mug that just has the perfect weight in your hand, Losing it is annoying.
Super annoying.
But imagine if replacing that specific item wasn't just about your daily comfort. Imagine it was a literal matter of life and death.
And we throw terms like life or death around so casually in conversation,
Oh, totally. I'll die if I don't get my coffee.
Exactly. But as we explore the story, we are going to see that this is a completely literal description of the stakes. We are tracking how this hyper-specific, terrifying personal emergency for one single family transformed into a massive global humanitarian effort.
Yeah.
And ultimately a really striking display of how a multinational corporation handles its resources.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really understand why the world reacted the way it did, we have to look at the microcrisis first.
Right, where it all started.
Exactly. We are in Devon, England, and it's November 2016. We meet Mark Carter and his 14-year-old son, Ben.
So Ben has severe autism and is nonverbal.
Yes. And since he was 2 years old, so for 12 straight years, Ben would exclusively drink from one very specific vessel.
Just one.
Just one. It was a small, two-handled blue Tommee Tippee sippy cup.
And, the word exclusively carries immense weight here. This is not a preference.
No, not at all.
It is an absolute unconditional requirement. If a liquid was not presented in that specific blue Tommee Tippee cup, Ben simply would not consume it.
Which is so hard to wrap your head around, right? Because for most of us, if an old cup cracks, we just, throw it in the recycling bin and grab a glass.
Yeah, you don't even think about it.
But for Ben, this specific piece of blue plastic acts as a literal translation mechanism for his basic survival.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, because the world can be this chaotic, sensory, overwhelming place for someone with severe autism. That cup is a predictable anchor.
The flow rate of the liquid is identical every single time.
Yes, exactly. The texture of the spout feels exactly the same. It translates the often overwhelming act of consuming liquids into an experience that is safe and manageable and acceptable to him.
And without that specific tactile translation, he literally cannot navigate the act of drinking.
What's fascinating here is how the source material categorizes this behavior.
Yeah, because society often mistakenly labels absolute rigidity in teenagers as just, stubbornness or a phase.
Like, oh, he'll drink when he gets thirsty.
Exactly, which is incredibly dangerous. The documentation frames this as a genuine, immediate medical crisis.
Right.
When Ben's cup wasn't available, or if the liquid was presented in a slightly different container, his protective mechanism kicked in and he stopped taking in fluids entirely.
Entirely?
Yeah.
Which is terrifying.
It is. The documentation highlights that this exact rigidity had previously resulted in 2 separate emergency hospitalizations for severe dehydration.
Wow.
His internal organs were actively threatened.
Which means the clock is just always ticking. Because, let's face it, plastic is not invincible.
No, especially not something you use every single day.
Exactly. You are running this cup through the dishwasher thousands of times. It gets dropped. It gets chewed on. It gets washed again.
It's just normal wear and tear.
Yeah, and the material was rapidly deteriorating. You can just imagine the daily terror for a parent in that situation.
Oh, absolutely.
You're watching the singular physical lifeline your child relies on slowly crumble day by day.
And 12 years of relying on one specific product model means the mathematical margin for error shrinks to literally zero.
Yeah, because things change.
Right. Supply chains and manufacturing lines are constantly evolving. Products get discontinued all the time to make way for new designs.
You see it with, like, sneakers or phones all the time.
Exactly. And by the time 2016 rolled around, that specific two-handled blue model hadn't been manufactured or stocked on store shelves for years.
So the local options were just completely exhausted. Mark Carter couldn't just, drive down to the store.
The well was dry.
Yeah, totally dry. He couldn't check the local classifieds. So facing this impossible, hyper-localized medical emergency, he turned to the internet.
Like we all do when we're desperate.
Right. He went on Twitter, made this incredibly emotional plea explaining the severe autism, the very real dehydration risks, and he used the hashtag cup for Ben.
And he attached a photo of the cup. He essentially asked if anyone, anywhere, had this exact model sitting in their home.
And it went unbelievably viral. I mean, tens of thousands of retweets.
Global media outlets picked it up almost instantly.
Yeah. Suddenly you had people from all over the world abandoning their desks, walking into their kitchens, digging past the Tupperware, and physically rummaging through the back of their cupboards.
Looking for the specific blue cup.
Yes, just to mail it to a total stranger in Devon.
The global response was immediate. I mean, the sheer volume of people mobilized by a single photograph of a worn-out cup is staggering.
Like, wait, here's where it gets really interesting, though. The internet is, well, it's an absolute fire hose of desperation.
Oh.
You log on to any social media platform, and you are instantly hit with a wall of GoFundMe links, medical petitions, pleas for assistance.
It's overwhelming.
It is. Most of them barely get a second glance. So why did this specific tweet cut through the noise? Why did this cause people around the world to physically stand up and search their houses?
Well, it really comes down to the psychology of actionable tasks.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So abstract, massive problems like ending global poverty or curing a widespread disease, they often make people feel paralyzed.
Because it's just too big.
Right. The problem is too large, and an individual's contribution feels like just a drop in the ocean. But Mark Carter presented incredibly high emotional stakes paired with a crystal clear, hyper-specific, tangible goal.
Find the blue cup.
Exactly. Find the blue cup to save a 14-year-old boy's life.
It turns a massive crisis into a highly localized treasure hunt.
Because everyone has a kitchen cupboard, everyone fundamentally understands the concept of a favorite cup.
Yeah, it's so relatable.
The barrier to entry was practically non-existent. You didn't need to donate a massive sum of money, you didn't need a medical background, you just had to check your shelves.
That's a really good point.
That combination of low effort and incredibly high emotional reward made it an irresistible humanitarian mission. It highlights a recurring theme in the sources, which is the staggering power of a digital plea when you give the global village a precise physical task.
So thousands of people offered to help. But the crowdsourced compassion hit a very hard, very fast ceiling.
Because finding a discontinued model is difficult enough, right?
Yeah, but finding an exact match proved to be a logistical nightmare.
Oh, I bet.
People were digging out cups that were similar. Maybe they had the right shape, but they were green instead of blue. Or they were blue, but the handles had a slightly different curve.
And for Ben's sensory needs, similar is dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Similar means the flow rate changes or the tactile feedback is wrong, which leads straight back to the hospital. It had to be identical.
And even when people did find the exact identical blue cup, it had usually been used by their own toddlers for 3 years.
So it was all chewed up.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It was arriving in a condition that wasn't much better than Ben's current deteriorating cup.
So the well of usable, pristine used cups was running dry before it even really opened.
Exactly. The community network simply couldn't provide a long-term, safe fix, which means to actually solve this crisis, you have to go straight to the architect.
The original creators.
Right. Tommee Tippee, the company that manufactured the cup in the first place, sees the massive viral hashtag. They recognize the gravity of the medical situation, and they step in.
But stepping in is incredibly complicated when the inventory is basically a ghost.
Yeah, they can't just walk into a distribution warehouse and pull a box off a shelf.
The line is completely dead.
So they essentially launch an international corporate archaeological dig. And I do not use that term lightly.
No, it's incredibly accurate.
They are forced to coordinate dedicated teams across the UK, the US, Australia, France, and Hong Kong.
5 different countries.
5 distinct international branches of a massive manufacturing company, all talking to each other, hunting through old design schematics and storage archives.
And The mechanics of how a massive corporation tracks down an obsolete asset are just fascinating.
I can only imagine. How does that even work?
Well, when a production line shuts down, the tools don't just sit on a workbench somewhere. Supply chains are ruthless about floor space and efficiency.
Right, space is money.
Exactly. So the physical injection molds, which are these massive, incredibly heavy blocks of custom machined steel used to press the hot plastic into the shape of a cup, they are usually shipped off to deep storage facilities, archived in legacy databases, or just simply broken down for scrap metal.
Wait, so they aren't even looking for a leftover cup. They are trying to find the original heavy metal mold that birthed the cup in the first place.
Exactly. And this raises an important question, right? What is the actual responsibility of a corporation in a highly visible scenario like this?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. The source material explicitly cites this sequence of events as a profound example of corporate duty. A company in this situation has far easier, much cheaper options to manage the PR.
Oh, the standard playbook is so predictable.
What would they usually do?
They send a giant, beautifully packaged care box of their newest, shiniest sippy cups.
Right.
They take a photo for social media, tweet out something like, "Oh, we love Ben. We hope he adapts to our new designs." And they walk away having spent maybe $50 on shipping.
Which is totally useless for Ben.
Completely useless.
And when Ben inevitably rejects those new cups due to his severe sensory rigidity, the company can just throw their hands up and say, hey, we did our best.
Yeah, it's a superficial gesture. It plays incredibly well online, but fundamentally fails to solve the actual life-threatening medical issue.
But Tommee Tippee bypassed that cheap PR stunt.
They did.
They dedicated real, expensive man-hours across 5 global branches to comb through deep storage to find the root manufacturing source. They didn't put a Band-Aid on the problem. They dug down to the absolute core of their supply chain.
And after scouring the globe, they actually find it.
It's unbelievable.
It is. They track down the original metal manufacturing mold. It is sitting, unused and gathering dust, in a factory in China, where it had been abandoned for over a decade.
Talk about finding a needle in a haystack.
Right. Finding a needle in a global haystack is a miracle. But pulling a 10-year-old piece of heavy machinery out of a dusty warehouse does not instantly solve Ben's problem.
No, definitely not.
You can't just wipe off the cobwebs, plug it into a wall, and start pouring hot plastic.
No, the logistics of resurrecting obsolete industrial machinery are intensely complex.
Because the materials change, right?
Exactly. The plastics industry evolves rapidly. Over a decade, the chemical compositions of food-safe plastics changed dramatically. Regulatory safety standards evolved.
That makes sense.
A steel mold designed in the early 2000s was engineered to work with the specific plastic formulations of that exact era.
Right. And you have to make sure you aren't inadvertently exposing this teenager to outdated chemicals while trying to literally save his life.
Exactly. The source details how Tommee Tippee had to bring this mold completely out of retirement and subject it to rigorous engineering testing.
They had to be absolutely certain.
Yeah, they had to guarantee that this old piece of equipment could successfully interface with modern, up-to-code plastic materials. Because if you pour a new, modern food-safe polymer into an old mold, it might shrink at a slightly different rate when it cools.
Wow, even just a tiny bit.
Yes. If the shrinkage rate is even 1 millimeter off, the threads on the cup's lid won't catch properly.
And if the lid doesn't snap on tight, the tactile experience changes.
The sensory feedback changes.
And Ben rejects it.
Exactly. So the engineering team had to run test batches, analyze the structural integrity, and ensure the resultant cup met every single modern chemical safety standard.
All while making it look and feel exactly like the old one.
All while perfectly mimicking the exact physical dimensions of a cup from over a decade prior. And once it finally passed all those hurdles, they officially restarted the machinery for a dedicated production run.
So what does this all mean? The sheer scale of the final resolution is just staggering.
It really is.
They didn't just print off 5 or 6 replacement cups to get the Carter family through the next year.
No.
In that dedicated production run, delivered between 2016 and 2017, they manufactured 500 identical blue cups, specifically for Ben.
500 physical units. Just think about that.
Let's do the math on that. If Ben goes through 5 or 6 sturdy plastic cups a year, 500 units is an 80-year supply.
It is a literal lifetime supply.
It really is. Think about the psychological weight lifting off Mark Carter's shoulders.
I can't even imagine.
For a decade, Every single time he loaded the dishwasher, there was that underlying terrifying dread of like, is today the day the cup crashed?
The constant anxiety.
Yeah. But now he has 500 identical anchors. If one gets lost at a park or chewed through or stepped on, he just walks into his garage and grabs another one.
The crisis is permanently mathematically neutralized for the rest of his son's life.
It's beautiful.
It is. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this sequence of events demonstrates the ultimate synthesis of corporate capability and human empathy.
That's a great way to summarize it.
Because spooling up a massive factory line requires immense resources. You are burning energy, navigating complex logistics, paying for specialized engineering testing, and sourcing raw materials.
It's not a small favor.
No, not at all. That machinery in China was not restarted for profit. There was zero financial return on investment for those 500 cups. The machinery was brought back to life to produce exactly 500 units of pure, unadulterated relief for one single family in Devon.
It's an unbelievable journey to track. You start with a single decaying piece of plastic sitting on a kitchen counter and a desperate father sending a panicked tweet into the digital void.
Just a shot in the dark.
Exactly. And that single message mobilizes thousands of ordinary people to search their cupboards, which forces a multinational company to take notice.
Triggering a 5-country hunt for an obsolete block of steel.
Yes, and culminating in a reactivated factory line in China.
It perfectly maps the pathway of how digital empathy, when channeled into a clear, actionable goal, can create tangible, real-world salvation.
And that is exactly what I want you, the listener, to take away from this deep dive.
Absolutely.
We all spend a massive chunk of our lives online, and it is incredibly easy to get bogged down by the noise, the arguing, and just the sheer negativity of the social media landscape.
It can be so draining.
It really can be. But the next time you feel completely overwhelmed by that digital noise, I want you to remember the cup for Ben.
It's a perfect reminder.
Because the exact same digital infrastructure that stresses us out daily possesses the raw, unfiltered power to connect a father's deepest, most intimate fear to global empathy.
And ultimately mobilize international supply chains to save a 14-year-old boy's life.
The architecture for profound good is already built.
It really is. It just requires the right catalyst to activate it.
Yeah.
And I'll leave you with a final thought to mull over. Picture that discontinued 10-year-old mold sitting in the Chinese factory.
Okay.
For a decade, it was essentially forgotten scrap metal. It had zero value on a corporate balance sheet.
Right.
But if an obsolete, forgotten piece of plastic manufacturing equipment can be resurrected to literally save a child's life, what other hidden resources are sitting dormant in corporate supply chains worldwide right now?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
What other potential miracles are just gathering dust in a warehouse somewhere, waiting for the right viral catalyst to be used for good?
That fundamentally shifts how you look at the world around you.
It really does.
Because sometimes a critical medical emergency doesn't sound like an ambulance siren. Sometimes a life-saving intervention isn't a complex surgery.
No, sometimes it's much simpler.
Sometimes the most important cure in the entire world is just a slowly decaying piece of blue plastic and a massive global chorus of voices demanding that it be made whole again.